Coach, you've had at least a little bit of time to gather your legs and get back in the gym. How good's it been to kind of find some normalcy after a lot of games in a short amount of time?
That was without a doubt, the most unique stretch of basketball games during the regular season in a short window that I've experienced. And I told our kids that the other day. I think it was 10 games in like 22 days or something. Maybe I'm wrong by a day or two, but it was maybe 10 and 24 or something like that, 7 and 15. You guys know this, that ain't an excuse. That's the kind of stuff that if you play better, it makes your year. And so I think there wasn't a lot of time to take a breath. There wasn't a lot of time to get back to the fundamentals and practice and some of the things that we've seen regress over the last month because it's always been resting and preparing for the next game, and you kind of felt like you were in that gauntlet for 4 straight weeks. To have a chance to catch our breath and give them some time off and then get back in the gym and really work in a way that we haven't been able to here over the last month, that's been refreshing. I think it's been refreshing to the players as well. We had probably the most intense practice we've had 5 or 6 weeks yesterday, but we also have given them a proper amount of rest. So I think there's some refreshing things in that, and there's a lot of stuff that we needed to address here on the practice court. We're having an opportunity to do that this year.
Could you feel yourself during that stretch of games seeing things like, man, if we were just in the gym for a couple of days, we could address something like that, something that might have been slipping or that you just knew we need some more time to work on that stuff?
You see some of the habits and fundamental details that I thought were improving throughout the course of the year. You see them regressing in front of your eyes, and you're showing it on tape. You're coaching it. The guys are listening, but they're not building that muscle memory, right? And you kind of saw it happening and deteriorating over time. And I'm all about the things that we can control, and that's the stuff that you can control when you get in the gym and work. And so I'm glad we can get back to doing that. And listen, guys, I ain't into excuses. Like, we had a bunch of games in a bunch of days. That's happened during these last couple of years of COVID to lots of teams, and teams have handled it better than we have. So I'm not saying it as an excuse or a crutch, but given this break, it's a chance to address some of the things we haven't been able to address.
Hurry up, say
I was already down here, and they were down here, and I said, let's go.
It's all good. Brandon, a couple questions?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No, we just started.
We just started.
You know, wait for it?
No, you're good.
Do you have an opinion on the playing a team for a third time and you've beat them twice? Have you had much experience with that?
Yeah, certainly. Played in a round robin league for 10 years, so you play, people twice, and then you're going to play them in the conference tournament. So I've been through that third game, and we had so much success the last however many years that a lot of times we were playing that third game in the conference tournament, and we'd won 2 in a row. So I've been through that before. I don't think we've ever thought about it any differently than preparing for any other game. It's hard to win a Division I college basketball game. It's hard to win a high major college basketball game. And it's hard to win games in the American Conference. I don't look at the dynamics going into the game, but how many times you play. Hey, listen, we got to prepare. We got to have respect for our opponent, which we do, and we got to go out and tip it up. We don't think a lot about those kind of dynamics, but I've been through them before for sure.
So maybe help the guys that the last one was right down to the wire, and kind of so it wasn't like you just walked over 2 games in the conference. You actually.
I think the last 3 of the last 5 games have come down to 1 possession games in the last minute. So we're battle tested. I think one thing we try to do is not even though there's been game after game, we haven't ever taken a game and just said, hey, we're burying the tape, let's get to the next one. We tried to learn from each game. Now we haven't necessarily been able to practice, but we've been able to address things and learn. So are we pleased with how we're playing in the last minute of games here recently? No. I think it's 9 games this year that you've been within a possession in the last minute, not 1. But we're battle tested, and hopefully we're improving in those areas, now having a chance to practice it a little bit. So that should help you come conference tournament time.
What did it tell you about your team struggling? You go to Texas for those 2 road games, and really played together and played hard and didn't get the result you wanted, but they showed a lot of fight and a lot of effort.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I told them this, like it's important to recognize, effort. It's important to recognize their attitude and their ability not to give in. And that's been something that's been admirable with this group. Now, it's also important to recognize that when you put that uniform on, that's expected. Like that's like the standard is that you play your ass off and that you stay together and you fight. That's what people have done before us to get us here. So it's a standard, it's expected. But that said, kids can give in. You see teams across the country give in when things get hard, and this team hasn't done that. And I value that for sure. That's
You good?
Yep.
At UNCG, it was pretty much you always had to go into the tournament and win if you wanted to go to the NCAA tournament, no matter how well of a season you had. Have you talked to the team at all about kind of going in the stretch, even though you're struggling, and having a chance to get on a run and do something special?
Yeah, I told them we met yesterday morning before practice. I told them I've been in this situation for 10 years. I've had some times that we didn't handle it really well, and then we've handled it really well at times, consistently here over the last 5 years. I don't think it's like anything. There's no secret recipe to having success in a conference tournament format. But the one thing I've learned is it's like, and I say it like a conference tournament is like eating an elephant. The only way to do it is one bite at a time, right? You can't think about multiple games in multiple days. You think about it as a one-game tournament. You think about that first game against East Carolina. And, we can't be worried about what happens if we got to take care of business one possession at a time, one game at a time. And if after Thursday afternoon, if American says you can stay around, then we'll figure out what's next at that point. You don't go into a conference tournament thinking about it as a big picture. You go about it thinking as a one-game event. And that's the teams that I've had that have had success in conference tournaments, and I've had a number of them. I think that's how they've approached it the week of practice, and that's how they've approached the first game.
You mentioned it with just talking about the team's fight and not giving up. This team could have finished out a long time ago and you're struggling. Do you feel like in a tournament like this, it is kind of the do or die might bring out the best in guys because everything is on the line? You just think about one game at a time, like you just said.
Yeah, I think the conference tournament when you're playing for everything, NCAA tournament when it's kind of that do or die. I think that's when. That's one of the reasons March is so special in college basketball, because those dynamics bring out the best in everybody and bring out the best in teams and players. Because all of a sudden all the other stuff that mattered throughout the course of the year doesn't matter, because if we don't win the game, we don't get to stay around. So I think that's what makes March really special in college basketball, and I think our team will answer the bell in terms of their approach and mentality. That doesn't always mean you're going to go out and play your best basketball, but I think the intention will be to do that for sure.
Playing well those last two games in Texas, like you talked about, having a chance to play well in the tournament. Does that actually matter going into an off season? Does it actually create any kind of momentum, or is that maybe overblown or overhyped when people talk about that?
Yeah, I think if you guys are thinking about off season, we're not on the same wavelength. I mean, I'm thinking about East Carolina on Thursday.
Sure.
I'm thinking about practice today, and that'll always be our approach. And whatever happens, you wake up the next day and prepare for the next thing. And so, if we end the season on a great note, hey, that'll be excellent. That's what I want to happen. If we don't, we're going to wake up and get back to work. And I don't try not to get too concerned with all those kind of dynamics and those kind of thoughts.
Did you get to watch Saturday night at all?
I did.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, I got a bunch of texts after the game Saturday night. A couple people said congratulations. I said, well, guys, we've lost 5 in a row. I don't know what you're congratulating me for. And I knew it was about the Carolina game. Listen, my heart and soul in Cincinnati, and that I'm a Bearcat, but obviously, alumni of North Carolina, and even more important than that, the guys on that staff, some of our best friends in the world. So you're pulling for your friends, and you're pulling for something you were a part of for sure. But a win at East Carolina will get me more excited than Carolina's win at Duke.
I know this is kind of a big picture question, but just the wins haven't been there all throughout the year, week in and week out. But are you proud of just the fight and the grit and determination of these guys to stick with it and get to a point where you were in the game with a team that could be a 2 or 3 seed like Houston? You guys have fought all year long. Is that something that you've seen come to fruition? That culture that you wanted to establish when you got here?
Yeah, I've tried to say this as many ways as I can. I've been really impressed with our group in terms of their approach, work ethic, their mentality, and their togetherness. And I think that's where it starts. Like, you have to have those values in place to become a great program, and they've exhibited those things throughout the course of this year, and I'm proud of that, and that deserves to be recognized. That also comes with putting the jersey on. That's the standard, right? Is you're going to play your tails off. You're going to stay together. You're never going to give in and keep fighting. That's what comes with putting this jersey on. So it is to be expected, but at the same time, when that doesn't always happen in college basketball anymore at this stage, when you're going through a tough moment, it's important to recognize it has with these guys, and I'm proud of that, and they know that.
This is less big picture, but it seems like JD's been maybe posting up a little bit more the past couple of games. Is that something you've talked to him about, or you feel like he's worked on here late in the year?
Yeah, well, he's getting guarded with guards a lot of nights, where they're switching onto him with smaller guards. And so, we've talked a lot about how to attack that throughout the course of the year. We want him to get more post situations in those moments. So certainly early in offense, when he's guarded with a smaller guard, you like it when he's around the rim. And that's been where a lot of his easy baskets have come. Not necessarily true back to the basket catch, but an offensive rebound against a smaller guy early in a possession with Mike or Shuey getting downhill and missing one at the rim. So I think we got to find ways to keep counteracting how he's been guarded, and him playing in the post against smaller players is one thing that we've been trying to work on it for a while, but you saw that kind of come to fruition, especially in the SMU game. I thought he got three catches down there, and I think he was 2 for 3 in those plays.
Is that maybe a result of teams trying to get more length on Dave, that the smaller guy ends up on Jeremiah? Or
not necessarily.
Is there any rhyme or reason to it?
Not necessarily. I think what we've seen a lot this year, like usually you don't talk too much dynamics publicly because everybody's watching, right? And all the people you're competing against, but the jury's out. Like I think what we're seeing all year is that people have been trying to guard with their long wing, like their longest wing, the traditional 3-man. They're trying to put him on Jeremiah a lot of nights, and they're putting their 4 on John. And then you see probably the most physical and physically dynamic guard in the backcourts on Dave. Like, I think that's kind of what we've been seeing here over the last 5 or 6 weeks, with some exceptions, because each team has a different approach and a different roster. But that seems to be a little bit of the game plan, and those are the things that's the chess match. In each game in, game out, that you're going through as a coach, and at times we've really done a nice job of executing against that, and at times we haven't.
Do you have any update on John? Obviously, he went out during the SMU game.
Yeah, it's been like the same thing that it's been with John. It kind of feels like all year that he starts getting back to looking like he's healthy and moving at a really high clip, and then a little I wouldn't say injury, but a tweak or something kind of sets him back, and it started in the Arkansas game when he rolled that ankle the first time, and it's kind of just happened over and over again. You just kind of get into that cycle sometimes as a player. I believe he'll be playing this week. We just hope he can get to a point that he's playing at 100%.
I don't want to make you repeat yourself. So.
No, you're good, man.
It's my fault, to be honest. I don't usually screw it up, but I screwed this one up pretty good.
Did we talk about ECU and kind of looking into that matchup? The 2 games you faced them before, 2 wins, but are there some things that you can say, all right, we got to make sure we do this the 3rd time around?
Yeah, certainly. You're going to break down they're going to do the same thing. You're going to break down every aspect of the last 2 games and every possession. You're going to hang on to some things you thought you did well and try to do them. You're going to attack some things in practice that you thought you didn't do well, and pick people apart. I think that's what happens when you get a week to prepare in college basketball. They've had the same amount of time. Coaching staffs are going to dig in. We have all these resources, both staffs, right? We're going to dig in and look for those advantages. I think the real trick as a coach is to figure out the things you can give your players without taking their aggressiveness away and taking their confidence. Well, you don't want them out there overthinking. So how much we do, to prepare for any team, there's always a fine line. You want to still be you. You still want to remain within the identity you built up over a whole season.
It's hard to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times in a single season. Can you just speak on the difficulty and challenges of that?
Yeah. I've been through this before. After 10 years coaching in a league where it was round robin play. Where you play everybody twice on home and on the road, and then you get to the conference tournament, and you're playing people for a third time. And fortunately, we're coming off a lot of really good years in a row. So a lot of times when you're playing those games in the conference tournament as a 1 seed or a 2 seed, you are playing somebody that you've already beaten a couple times. So going through that scenario before, I don't necessarily think about it any differently. I think you respect every opponent. We respect the heck out of East Carolina. I mean, we were fortunate to win at their place on a 1-possession game. On the last possession, we needed a layup for Dave, and they had a heave-ho to win it. So it's not like as if we were running them out of the gym. And we're just going to approach it. We approach any game all year. Respect for the opponent. We got to come out and be the best version of ourselves, and the chips fall where they lie. Yep.
Thanks, Coach.